I love gold, silver, and crypto because I have an enemy, and we have an enemy in common. It's called the Federal Reserve Bank of America, which keeps printing. And but what is happening in the economy there? Because I hear your real estate is in a bubble and stuff like that. So what's the macro of Aussie?
Sure. So in terms of what I've been saying for the last probably 5 years is we have the biggest debt bubble in Australian history. At the same time, we've got the biggest debt bubble in the history of the world. And your timing is actually very interesting, Robert, because I actually just gave my first seminar for 2021 last week, and I updated some of our clients about my revised view. So 2 years ago in 2019, I said that Australia has 2 debt bubbles: a household debt bubble and a foreign debt bubble. Obviously we've got that household debt bubble is concentrated in terms of real estate. And anytime I do any interviews with the people from the United States, I like to say to people that in the context of the household sort of debt bubble and the real estate debt bubble that Americans had before the global financial crisis, if you thought that was extreme, you pretty much haven't seen anything. The extreme, if you look at the Australian metrics, we are way more extreme in terms of real estate prices versus sort of income, and we are at much more extreme levels than the United States. But my revised position is that we actually have now three debt bubbles, and with COVID-19, we've just seen the federal government here in Australia, state governments and territory governments rack up unprecedented amounts of debt to basically save the other 2 bubbles. And the reason why they were forced to do so is because without that stimulus, we would have seen a record amount of delinquencies and defaults in terms of mortgages. And we would have had a financial crisis similar to what, for example, the United States and Ireland went through in 2007, 2008. So in order to avoid that outcome, kind of like what you said in terms of opening the show, in terms of central banks continuing to print.
I don't know if the Perth Mint is your competitor or what, but what is the rumor about them not having enough silver?
Sure. So now one thing I will say is that we are actually an approved distributor for the Perth Mint. So we have a number of sources where we obtain product, gold and silver, and the Perth Mint, that is one of them. So in the context of the Perth Mint, I've been on a bit of a campaign starting last year, largely about what I call synthetic gold and silver. And these sort of products are things like unallocated, pool allocated accounts. And we started to hear a range of stories early March of people not being able to buy silver at the retail level in Perth from the Perth Mint. We also heard stories of wholesalers not being able to buy large amounts of silver from the Perth Mint, even though they said on record that they have 60 tons available for sale. That starting at the 1st of March, we cannot place any order on the Perth Mint for any sort of order because they were running short of silver. Customers who had unallocated or pool allocated accounts, particularly in silver, standing for delivery, and there was a commitment by the Perth Mint, according to their website, to deliver in 10 days, and they just could not deliver in 10 days. And on the one hand, they said that they had the silver, but they had a manufacturing fabrication problem. But I've had numerous people who have said, well, I don't want small products. If you've got 1,000-ounce bars, I'll take those 1,000-ounce bars. And sometimes people have been able to get them. In a lot of cases, they have not. And it's been an ongoing saga going forward. And one thing I should say, Robert, is that so Craig Hemke from the TF Minutes report, and in terms of Sprott Money, he wrote an article on the 2nd of February saying that this silver squeeze movement was not going to manifest itself into a crisis in New York or London, but it was going to result in a crisis either in Perth, Zurich or Montreal with these unallocated accounts. And 6 weeks after he wrote that, Perth blew up. So there are some very smart cookies in the silver market who have a very good feel as to what's happening in the physical market, where the shortages are, where some of these synthetic fractional reserve programs are running. And Craig Hemke was the first in the market around the world to call it, and he was dead right.
So this is I'm glad I'm talking to you, because as good as gold as Australia, as an insider,
yes.
I love silver. People see me on Fox television in America all the time saying, I love silver. And so the question I have for you, which is a better buy today, gold, silver, or crypto?
Well, in terms of my portfolio, so I don't own any crypto. Probably three key reasons. The first is that we have a 5,000 year history with gold and silver, and cryptos have only been around for 10 years, or about 10 to 12 years. So we don't know if we had a really systemic financial crisis. Well, what's going to happen to cryptocurrencies? We don't really know. So I think that there's a lot of risk, a lot of market risk that a lot of people in the sector don't really understand, because we've never gone through that situation before. That's point one. Point two is that the number one reason why people are buying cryptocurrencies is because it's going up. But one thing I like to do when I allocate capital is I like to get a very deep technical understanding of what I'm actually doing. And for example, Robert, if you gave me the code for Bitcoin versus Ethereum versus Litecoin, etc. Now I'm an economist, but I'm not a cryptologist. So I can't tell you at a technical level what do these codes actually do, and what are the differences, and what are the risks, and what are the opportunities. And I would say 99.9% of crypto investors are not cryptologists, and they do not understand these underlying computer codes, what they actually do. And the only reason why they're buying them is because the price is going up. And if you don't actually understand at a technical level what these codes do, well, you don't actually understand the risk of the asset. So that's point two. Now, point three is, so the funny thing is, I did a seminar in Adelaide last week with As Good as Gold Australia, and in the Q&A, I actually had a question about crypto. And I actually asked the audience, and there was about 140 people in the audience, and I said, well, how many people here tonight actually own cryptocurrencies? And about half the audience put their hand up. And I said, how many of you actually understand that in 1996, the National Security Agency in the United States wrote a white paper for MIT about cryptocurrencies? And only one person put his hand up. And so the real question I have is, well, who was Satoshi Nakamoto? I mean, because I dare say it could well be the American government is behind the whole cryptocurrency phenomena. Now, I've got some different theories as to why that is, but a lot of people, again, haven't looked into the history of cryptocurrencies. They don't know that the NSA wrote a white paper about this. And again, I think there's much more to the crypto story than what the average American or the average Australian investor are fully aware of.
I agree 100%. But I'm a trader in crypto. I'm not an investor. So
I gotcha.
Do you know what I mean? So when it dropped to 7,000 a coin, I got back in. So still, I'm in the money quite a bit right now. And I know it can go to zero also. So I'm well aware of that. Whereas gold and silver are God's money. So I have lots of gold and silver.